Okay, so let's get right into it. We hear about vitamin D all the time, right? It's in our food, it's in our supplements. They call it the sunshine vitamin. But beyond the basics, you hear these huge claims about it fighting chronic pain and even boosting muscle strength. So, what we're going to do is cut through all that noise and see what the actual science has to say.
And to really get why this matters so much, let's just start with this number 18%. That's how many people in Spain are living with chronic pain. And that number, well, it's from Spain, but honestly, it reflects a global reality. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people all over the world just looking for some kind of relief.
You know, it's a really appealing idea, isn't it? The thought that something as simple as accessible as vitamin D could be the key to managing all this suffering. But, hope is one thing and evidence is another. So, what does a deep dive into the research actually tell us? So, our investigation kicks off with a major scientific review from 2024. This thing pulled together the results from 30 different studies, and the goal was super simple. Find out if there's a clear, direct connection between having low vitamin D and dealing with chronic muscle and skeletal pain. Now, take a look at the pattern here, or maybe I should say the lack of one. When the researchers put all the conclusions from decades of research side by side, the results were just all over the map. I mean, totally contradictory. Some studies said, yes, there's a link. Others said, nope, absolutely nothing. This disagreement was a huge sign that the story was a lot more complicated. And here it is, the official conclusion from that massive review. The scientific consensus is that there's just no clear direct link. Simply having low vitamin D doesn't seem to be a reliable way to predict whether or not someone is going to have chronic pain. Okay, so at first glance, this kind of feels like a dead end, right? A little disappointing, but it's not. Because buried inside that very same research was this subtle but absolutely crucial clue. It turns out the answer wasn't about if you have pain, but about how much pain you have. So this is the turning point in the story. The researchers decided to ask a totally different question. They thought, okay, what if vitamin D doesn't decide if you get pain, but instead it affects how intensely you feel it? And wow, when they looked at the data through that new lens, a much clearer picture started to show up. This is the key idea right here. Think of it like a light switch versus a dimmer switch. The evidence is telling us that vitamin D isn't the on-off switch for pain. It's more like a volume knob, one that can potentially turn the intensity of that pain up or down. So when the researchers zoomed in specifically on pain intensity, looking at 15 different studies, the connection got a whole lot stronger. They found this consistent inverse relationship. What that means in simple terms is, as people's vitamin D levels went up, their reported pain levels tended to go down. Okay, so this connection to muscle pain intensity got researchers thinking. They started to wonder, what about situations where muscles are under extreme stress and really need to recover? Like after a major surgery. I mean, recovering from surgery is a massive challenge for your body, and your muscles are absolutely essential during this time. They're doing the heavy lifting for tissue repair and keeping your whole body's metabolism stable. So to figure out vitamin D's role here, we're going to look at another huge scientific review, this one focusing just on muscle strength after surgery. And this just shows you how careful this process is. Researchers started with this mountain of over 700 potential studies, and after a super rigorous screening process, just to make sure they were only using the best quality evidence, they narrowed it all down to just 10 key trials. So what did they find in those top 10 trials? Well, the conclusion was pretty clear and direct. The review showed that giving patients vitamin D supplements, especially right before or just after surgery, significantly improves their muscle strength and their ability to function. Let's look at a real-world example because this is pretty amazing. This chart comes from a study on patients after a type of bariatric surgery. The group that only got a protein supplement lost over 18% of their muscle strength. But look at this. The group that got protein plus vitamin D lost only 3.8%. I mean, that is a dramatic night and day difference. So how is it actually working its magic? Well, on a cellular level, it first binds to these special receptors right on your muscle cells. And that kickstarts a whole chain of events. It helps the cells repair and regenerate, it helps build new protein, and it even makes the little power plants inside those cells, the mitochondria, work better.
Okay, so we've looked at chronic pain, we've looked at recovering from surgery. What's the big picture takeaway from all of this?
The story of vitamin D is really about nuance. On the one hand, the evidence that low levels directly cause chronic pain, it's pretty weak, it's inconclusive. But on the other hand, the evidence that it plays a really important role in adjusting pain intensity and that it's a powerful tool for boosting muscle recovery, well, that's much, much stronger.
So here's what you should really take away from all this. Don't think of vitamin D as some kind of magic fix for chronic pain. Instead, the science tells us to see it as something that can help manage pain severity and as a clear ally when your body needs to recover. And maybe most importantly, this is all about having the right questions to ask your doctor.
Ultimately, the evidence really suggests that for anyone who's facing intense physical pain or major surgery, asking about your vitamin D levels is a totally reasonable and maybe even crucial question. And it leaves us with this fascinating thought. As we learn more, how much is personalized nutrition, right down to a single vitamin, going to reshape the future of medicine and recovery?